Welcome to a new video from the world of opportunities. Today we will talk about two of the most influential people in the political world worldwide, two people who are rivals in their way of thinking but who at the same time need each other. They are Joe Biden and Donald Trump. One was the former president and another is the current president of the main world power, the United States. And everything seems to indicate that there will be a second electoral confrontation between these two very influential politicians not only in the United States but worldwide. The elections in the main power on the planet transcend borders and mark the pulse of global politics. Today, all eyes are on the return of Donald Trump, who will seek revenge for what happened in 2020, a defeat that he never publicly accepted and that triggered the assault on the Capitol. On January 6, 2021, Joe Biden and Donald Trump could face each other in the November presidential elections to define the future of the United States, and not just the Americans, but also the world. Europe, America and Asian countries, mainly China, will be attentive and with their eyes on whoever takes the lead command of the White House in Washington. On the one hand we have Joe Biden, who is the current president of the United States for the second time and has governed the North American country for 8 consecutive years. Joe Biden wants to be president of the United States until he is 86 years old. That open secret is now an official announcement. Biden has proclaimed who will stand for re-election on November 5, 2024. The advertisement, in which he calls to defend freedom and democracy against the extremists' attempt to curtail them, identifies these radicals with the current Trumpist MAGA, Let's Make America Great Again. April 25 has arrived, the same day that 4 years ago he entered the race for the nomination of the Democratic Party to evict Donald Trump from the White House. In the 2020 campaign he recited his favorite poem by the Irishman Seamus Heaney, in which hope and history rhymes. Now, history rhymes with itself and the most likely hypothesis is that Biden will face Trump again. With images of the assault on the Capitol, Biden begins his message by appealing to freedom. That has been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy, to protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone has a fair chance. Biden claims that across the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to end those fundamental freedoms by cutting Social Security, which you pay throughout your life, cutting taxes on the richest, dictating what health decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who can love, all while making it more difficult for you to vote, he proclaims. In the video, the images of the assault on the Capitol, the protests return in favor of abortion in photographs of some of the most extreme Republicans, Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. The president had been warning for months that his plan was to run for re-election, but without officially taking the step. With presidents in office, it is practically a given that they will run again, but in the case of Biden, who will turn 82 shortly after the 2020 elections, the doubt it was reasonable. What are Joe Biden's proposals on economic matters? Joe Biden's economic plan is based on the project called Bidenomics. It is about the future. It is another way of saying that we are going to restore the American dream, stated the president, who said that economists are the ones who had invented that term. Under the Bidenomics proposal, the White House has included a host of ideas, from infrastructure investments to tax incentives for resurrect the U.S. manufacturing sector through more populist policies, such as ending hidden fees charged by airlines, banks and other sectors. The president promised to carry out some of the major social reforms that he championed during his campaign for the 2020 elections and that they are stuck because Democrats do not have enough votes to pass them in Congress. Biden, in fact, used his speech to make clear that he intends to continue fighting for higher taxes for the rich and a major reform that allows the children between 3 and 5 years old have access to free education, in addition to reducing the high costs that Americans pay for university. With the arrival of Biden to the White House in January 2021, the U.S. economy recovered after the drop in GDP during the pandemic and rates. Unemployment rates fell to 4% during that year. However, the economy has shown its worst side with inflation, which rose to historic highs in 40 years, reaching 9.1% in the year 2022. What is certain is that Joe Biden will fight with all his might to achieve re-election to the presidency of the United States. What will happen to United States relations at the international level? The Biden administration's ideas about the relationship between economic policy and foreign policy have been confusing from the beginning. On the one hand, the White House. It tries to protect the United States from the supposed ravages of globalization and Chinese mercantilism. On the other hand, he preaches the virtues of alliances and solidarity of the international community. These two objectives have abruptly collided. Australia, Japan, and South Korea, for example, have called on the United States to commit more seriously to free trade in the Indo-Pacific. More than trying simply to isolate Beijing. Washington needs to craft a positive economic policy that persuades its allies to develop markets and supply chains independent from China. The administration does not dare to resume the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the Asian Trade Pact negotiated when Biden was vice president. The CHIPS, creating helpful incentives to produce semiconductors for America, does not prevent U.S. companies from using Chinese materials or penalize China for purchasing illicit technology, and could actually end up helping Chinese companies, since American companies that receive subsidies could continue depending on supply chains leading to China. In another part of the world, the North American administration is strongly involved, together with its European NATO allies, in the defense of Ukraine, in the handover of weapons, in militarily stopping Russia in Central Europe with an increasingly greater risk of escalation. Likewise, the south of the American continent has taken a political turn towards governments that offer dubious democratic guarantees, new populisms from the left, extremist and recycled that, according to many analysts, have come to power under the secret auspices of China and Russia. But the funny thing is that the changes are gone, spreading with the complacency of the White House. We will see what will happen if Joe Biden achieves a victory that leads him to re-election to the presidency of the United States. The other candidate who is running on the opposite side to be president of the United States again is Donald Trump, hated by many and loved by others. So many, comes with new proposals with the goal of defeating Biden in the November presidential election and taking over the White House. What does Donald Trump propose for the United States in the next 4 years? Trump seeks to dismantle the deep state. Trump would try to strip tens of thousands of career employees of their civil service protections. That way, they could be fired while looking for completely annul the deep state. He would try to accomplish that by reissuing a 2020 executive order known as Clause F. That would allow it to reclassify masses of employees, with a focus, in particular, he said, in corrupt bureaucrats who have turned our justice system into a weapon and corrupt actors in our intelligence apparatus and national security. Beyond layoffs, he wants to crack down on government officials who leak information to journalists. It also seeks to require that federal employees pass a new civil service test. Regarding migration, Trump has committed to immediately stop the migrations that occur almost daily on the southern border of the United States and end unauthorized immigration. As part of that plan, he says he would immediately order U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to undertake the largest operation of national deportation in United States history. It would focus on people who live in the United States with legal authorization but who harbor sympathies jihadists, and would revoke visas for students who espouse anti-American and anti-Semitic views. In a bid to secure the U.S.-Mexico border, Trump says he will bring in thousands of troops currently stationed abroad and move federal agents, including those from the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, and the FBI, to immigration enforcement. You also want build more border wall. Trump wants to reimpose his travel ban, which originally targeted 7 Muslim-majority countries, and expand it to keep radical Islamic terrorists outside the country. In the wake of Hamas's attack on Israel, it has pledged to implement an ideological test for immigrants. Their goal: ban dangerous lunatics, haters, bigots, and maniacs, as well as those who sympathize with terrorists and extremists, radical Islamists. To deter migrants, he has said he would end birthright citizenship, using an executive order that would introduce an untested interpretation legally of the 14th Amendment. The order would prevent federal agencies from granting automatic citizenship to the children of people who are in the United States illegally united. It would require at least one parent to be a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident for their children to be eligible to have passport, social security number, and other benefits. When it comes to U.S. trade, Trump says he will institute a system of tariffs of perhaps 10% on most products. Foreign sanctions would increase if trading partners manipulated their currencies or engaged in other unfair trade practices. He will urge Congress to pass a Trump Reciprocal Trade Act that gives the president the authority to impose a reciprocal tariff on any country that imposes one on the United States. Much of his agenda focuses on China. Trump has proposed a 4-year plan to phase out Chinese imports of essential goods, including electronics, steel, and pharmaceuticals. Wants to ban Chinese companies from owning U.S. infrastructure vital in sectors such as energy, technology, and agriculture, and says it will force Chinese owners to sell any possessions that endanger the national security of the United States. Given his anger at the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, and federal prosecutors pursuing criminal cases in his contra, Trump would likely target people linked to those proceedings in retaliation. Foreign policy and international relations will focus mainly on Europe and the Middle East. Trump argues that even before taking office, there will be resolve the war between Russia and Ukraine. That includes, he says, ending the endless flow of American treasure to Ukraine and asking European allies to reimburse the United States for the cost of rebuilding its reserves. It is unclear whether he would insist that Russia withdraw from Ukrainian territory it seized in the war it launched in February 2022. Trump has said he stands with Israel in its war against Hamas and will support Israel's efforts to destroy the extremist group. He says he will continue fundamentally re-evaluating NATO's purpose and mission. We will see what will happen, nobody knows. What is certain is that the United States will have the most important elections in the world in November, which will define the economic policies that will define the destiny of the world in the coming years. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video and have a prosperous life.